I just got back. I get back and all of this happens, and it's my fault? The first Sentinel's voice echoed in the Sentinel's mind in pitch-black darkness. A flash of bright orange and yellow light startled the Sentinel awake from a nightmare. She shrieked, sitting up in bed, sweating. She calmed down when she turned to see Vax sleeping peacefully by her. The Sentinel took a deep breath and stood from the bed. She cautiously walked out of the room, trying her best not to wake Vax. She almost failed when she was startled by the figure in the living room. Life? She whispered loud enough for the bird creature to hear. Why are you here? Do emissaries feel compelled to barge into my home whenever now? I need someone to talk to. Life craned her neck over the couch to see the Sentinel. She flew up and perched on the couch, draping her long, elegant tail feathers over the side. Why me? The Sentinel asked. Morty, as good a friend as he is, he's dealing with his own problems right now and can't talk with me. Morty? The Sentinel asked. Did you honestly think life and death were our actual names? Wouldn't that be convenient for a couple of Deus Evis to show up to the Extraverse for the jobs of Life and Death Master, and we happen to be named Life and Death already? The Life Master scoffed. No, we have names. I'm Vita, by the way. Death's name is Morty? The Sentinel questioned. The Paradox Master is always busy, and Time and Celeste are always arguing. Life continued. So what's Time's actual name, Martha? It's Time. Yeah, of course. I hope that I could talk with you. Vita lowered her neck and cocked her head so her eye was facing the Sentinel. Girl to girl. Right, I almost forgot. The Sentinel made her way over to the couch and sat by Vita. So what's up, the literal embodiment of life itself? I fear that maybe you don't know enough about the emissaries to work with us. We know everything about you. We can't work one-sided like that. You want to tell me about the Extraverse? Man, I've been wanting to know more about how that place works for ages now. I'm going to tell you what I know. I wasn't born there. Morty and I come from the planet Nidus, from the Black Star 7 district of this galaxy. We are Deus Evis, one of the originals amongst the Guards, the Crantharnics, or the Terrors, however you'd like, the Quadstella and the Dragolupus, the first living things created by Time herself. See, when we came to the Extraverse because of our circumstances in the midst of the first ever war, we were granted the titles of Life and Death Master, and we would help govern the multiverse alongside the Time Master, Plasma Master, and the Paradox Master. That doesn't check out. The Sentinel interrupted Vita. The Paradox Master wouldn't have been there at the beginning. Ah, yes, precisely. The Sentinel raised a brow. Vax walked into the living room, yawning and stretching. Sentinel, why are you up? She opened her eyes and saw who was in the living room with her. Life? She asked. Vita's eyes glowed white for a second and she shot her head up, looking around. I'm sorry, I have to go. I'll talk with you later, Sentinel. Time needs me. It's nice actually meeting you, the Sentinel nodded. Vita flew up and clapped her wings together. In a spark-filled flash of white light, she was gone. What was that about? Vax asked. It's like... She glanced at the clock. 4 a.m. Not entirely sure. The Sentinel stood up. Come back to bed. Vax turned around. The Sentinel followed her. Wait! The Sentinel stepped back and held her hands to her head. She shuffled her hair around. What is it? Vax asked. I just remembered what my nightmare was about. Vax looked at the Sentinel, confused. New Earth. I remembered something. The Sentinel paced. Where did Ray go after I died? He went back in time to Earth. Why? Did anyone manage to take the Calcris from him? The Sentinel asked worriedly. No, why? There's no way he only made a shield. Where did the rest of it go? Could he have made a superweapon? Sentinel. Vax stepped back. She remembered what the clone Amparv had told her about Galactic Jail vanishing and the space laser. I think I know what you're talking about. Oh, what's going on here? Nick opened his door and peered his head out. The Sentinel flashed away with Vax. The Sentinel and Vax went back to the Pantheon. Vax had already informed the Sentinel's army that the Sentinel was alive and well again. Vax got dressed in her astronaut outfit. The Sentinel stood in front of a mirror and adjusted the arrangement of her dark plasma cloth dress. She couldn't manage to style her long hair and keep it out of her face. The Sentinel quickly became frustrated. Vax stood behind her and styled the Sentinel's hair in a French braid, reassuring her. Thank you. The Sentinel's army met at the Pantheon, where they were told to keep a lookout for Ray's whereabouts. The Sentinel demanded that everyone on New Earth be scattered and evacuated to Janistar and Amalga 5. But she was adamant that what was about to happen couldn't be prevented, but afterwards, they needed to be on high alert for protecting Amalga 5 and Janistar. Sentinel, what exactly is going to happen? Vax asked. You haven't really told us yet. When I was in my first incarnation, I took Matrona to New Earth, thinking nothing of it. Okay. Vax listened closely. It was empty and abandoned, and then, boom. It was hit with a massive space laser. I remember its color, too, and only last night did I remember that it looked identical to Ray's Calcaris shielding. And he stole all the Calcaris. Better safe than sorry. Vax sat down at a table in the hangar of the Pantheon. The Sentinel sat down at the same table, tapping her fingers on her leg and her foot on the ground. She looked around the hangar, out into space, and waited. The evacuation ships flew back and forth between New Earth, Janistar, and Amalga 5, and the Sentinel watched carefully. How do you know it's going to happen today? Vax asked. Why now? I don't know. The Sentinel turned her attention to Vax for a moment before looking out into space again. I'll have to stay here, keep watch until it happens. It's gotta happen eventually. It's inevitable. You can't stay awake that long. Yeah, I'm used to it. It's not healthy for you, Vax argued. What is healthy for someone who isn't alive? The Sentinel retorted. I'll stay here with you then, help you look out. We can sleep in shifts. Vax offered. Just don't do anything that'll hurt you. The elevator in the hangar dinged and Foxtrot stepped from it, approaching them. Foxtrot? Vax greeted him. Any news? Evacuation is taking longer than expected. How urgent is the issue, Sentinel? I don't think anyone will survive the planet splitting in half, she answered. As quickly as possible would be nice. What's the holdup? People don't like the idea of leaving, especially after just coming back. And if a worldwide destruction event like you say actually happens, historians are trying their best to bring what they can with them. Like little artifacts or what? The Sentinel asked. Whole landmarks, pyramids of Giza, the Colosseum, Stonehenge, the entire Smithsonian collection, fossils, anything that wasn't destroyed when it made the planet uninhabitable back in the First War. You know, the little things. Fossils. I literally brought the dinosaurs back. How are they transporting monuments and landmarks? Tell them we have no idea how much time we have. Are they prioritizing those things over people? Some are. The planet's about 30% evacuated right now, Foxtrot explained. Well, that's not bad. Vax looked up with her eyes, thinking. That's just the major cities. There's no telling how long it'll take to evacuate everyone else. Do we have the Sentinel's army on standby? Vax asked. I'll call them up. Thank you. The Sentinel nodded. She looked back at Vax as Foxtrot made his way back to the elevator. They held their hands across the table. What's this? Vax asked, scanning over the Sentinel's face. Whatever happens, when it happens, I want you to prioritize yourself over me. Sentinel, nothing's gonna happen. Vax laughed, putting her head down, not making eye contact. No, I'm serious, Vax. I've died once. I think I might be able to afford it again. Wait, but how are you gonna fight Ray without your plasma powers? Vax let go of the Sentinel's hands. The Sentinel smiled. I'll figure it out. A lot went into bringing you back. Don't be careless. I'm the Sentinel. The Sentinel chuckled. I can't help it. An Andromedan ship landed in the hangar. Out came the bounty hunters Terry, Vogar, and Ganto. Foxtrot and Agro came down from the elevator. Miser and Vistor are on their way, Agro informed the Sentinel. Is the Paradox Master coming? Vax asked. No, Foxtrot answered. He's busy, Agro explained. He's looking over old memories. Life told me that he's having trouble remembering again. He's not doing so well. The Sentinel stood up. We can do without him for now. Here's what I need you all to do. She paced around the table. Vax watched her every motion. I need you to split up in whatever way makes sense to you. When New Earth is evacuated, I want one group of you to oversee ensuring nothing happens to Janistar, and another group of you to make sure nothing happens to Amalga 5. Vax and I will stay back here in the Pantheon and watch out for Ray. How will you fight Ray without us? Foxtrot asked. Quinn and Nick were able to fight him off for years. Vax stood up. If they can do it, surely we can. That's the spirit. The Sentinel patted Vax on the back. Now let's do our jobs. Split up. Miser and Vistor showed up by the elevator, and the rest of the army caught them up. They discussed how they would split up. Ultimately, they decided Agro and the bounty hunters would protect Janistar, and Miser, Vistor, and Foxtrot would be in charge of Amalga 5. Vax called for the Sentinel's attention, and she asked her, You know, I realized something. With all those years of experience, do you think Nick might be able to help us? He can know something about Ray that we don't. That's a good idea. The Sentinel reached out for the box floating by her shoulder, but she hesitated. Except I wouldn't want to get another Tempest killed. Sentinel, Vax smiled. Just because he's a Tempest doesn't mean anything bad will happen to him. Like I said, he fought Ray for years. Right. You're right, the Sentinel admitted. She glanced at the box for a moment and thought, You know, there's no reason for this to be so small if I can't have it in my hand always. I mean, I could just keep it in my pocket. The Sentinel looked down at her dress. Right. You're thinking about making a new box? It's needed some upgrades recently. The Sentinel reached out for the box. To the lab? She held out her hand for Vax. Of course. Vax took her hand and pulled herself in. The two of them flashed away and appeared in the lab on Janistar. Nick, the Sentinel called out, stepping away from Vax. She looked around the living room for him. Nick? Vax yelled. Jeez! Nick, startled, woke up from a nap on the Sentinel's couch. The blanket flew off and tumbled to the floor. Nick's hair was a mess. What's going on? Nick rubbed his eyes. New Earth is about to be torn to shreds, and we need you to help us stop Ray from doing the same thing to the planet I created and the planet you're currently sitting in my couch on. What? Nick stretched his arms. Just get ready, come on. Do you think Agro and your bounty hunters will be fine on Janistar? Miser asked Vistor. I sure hope so. Vistor adjusted himself in his seat on Foxtrot's ship. Honestly, boy, who taught you to fly? Can this thing go any faster? Vistor asked of Foxtrot. I was born with piloting knowledge. I'm a clone, remember? The whole army thing you ran? Right. Vistor coughed. We're almost there. We'll mobilize the militaries of Amalga 5 as quickly as possible. Vistor, if you have any information on Ray that you've been withholding from us, now would be the chance to tell it. I'm with you now. I have no reason to withhold anything. Vistor blubbered. I'm a changed Lorinian. It's true. Miser vouched for him. He came to my daughter's birthday party. I'm not sure I trust you yet. That's the old me talking, I think. Prepare for atmosphere. We're coming in for a landing. I hope we can get rid of Ray as soon as possible. I just want the Sentinel to save the universe before it's too late. Miser looked out of the window and watched as the ship made its descent into the bright blue sky of Amalga 5. As long as the Sentinel and Vax are working together, they'll get it done, Foxtrot assured him. Not if the Sentinel is doomed to die, as I understand it, Vistor pointed out. She's not alive entirely, if I'm correct in my assumption. Do you think she'll be fine? Miser asked. I don't know. Foxtrot landed the ship with a soft thud. One can only hope. Look, clone guy, I'm no protector of worlds, I'm a bounty hunter, Ganto reminded Agro. I don't preserve things, I do the exact opposite. I kill things, that's like my thing. Listen, little bug man, I only recently got into this whole protecting things thing. I was a weapon used by the Andromedans of Ilsos. I'm a clone, I'm as new to this as you are. Agro adjusted dials and levers in his ship, looking to several screens for reference. I lick Luu Krongars, Vogar said cheerfully. Look, just because I can understand Garish doesn't mean I understand all of it. Agro complained to Vogar. He likes to save people, Ganto laughed. Since when, you big oaf? Just the other day you stole from a family's house and murdered the—
Unte sono longrando le mi,
Vogar argued. The old you my ass, Vogar, that was— Kaninu Hitu Organri. Terry begged Vogar and Ganto to stop arguing. Yeah, really, Agro shook his head. Listening to you guys argue in 3 different languages is getting annoying. All I'm saying is I don't think any of us are really well prepared to protect an entire planet right now, Ganto told Agro. Look, just take everything you know about killing and pirating and apply that to just the bad guy. Morals are a social construct and I refuse to acknowledge them. Ganto crossed his 6 arms. The multiverse is at stake here. And why would I care? Ganto laughed. Without a multiverse, you're out of a job. Agro pulled down a lever aggressively and began to land on Janistar. Linoptini Unoams, Ganto. Terry nudged Ganto. Shut up, Terry. Ganto sat back in his seat. The ship landed abruptly in the black sands of Janistar. Get out, I need air. Agro stood up. He grabbed a scythe from the weapons rack in the ship. Pushy. Ganto stood up and waited for Terry and Vogar to slither out before him. How fast can you build boxes now? Vax watched in awe as the Sentinel formed a new box. It's basically second nature at this point, plus when the core doesn't need to be changed, a new shell isn't that hard. Huh, just casually making time machines, Nick commented. Nice. The Sentinel turned on the new box and it flew up to her face. It was about as big as the box before the last, large enough to be held in 2 hands. The circle in each face was light blue and indented into the cube itself. The outer shell was a deep red, and indented lines attached the inner circles to the 4 edges of every face. Again, the box was without corner circles, but with a larger frame and new design, the Sentinel was content. Alright, Nick. The Sentinel turned her attention to Nick. Got any insight on Ray? Would be helpful as I would like to switch my priorities to saving the multiverse. Ray isn't that great at hand-to-hand combat. He relies on that remote heavily. If you can disarm him, he's easy to take out, assuming he doesn't run away. We knew that. Vax tilted her head to the side. But how do we disarm him? The Sentinel asked. That's the issue, we haven't really figured out a solid way. I shot his hand off last time. How'd you get past the Calcarus shielding? The Sentinel asked. Nick withdrew his pistol and gestured toward it. Calcarus bullets? Where did you get Calcarus on Earth? The Sentinel seemed surprised. Oh, Vax chuckled. Yeah, that would be me. I stopped by to provide them with some Calcarus. Cool way to use it, by the way. Vax complimented Nick. So you're telling me the US government knew about Calcarus before I did? The Sentinel glanced at Vax. Is that bad? Vax shifted in her chair. That's genius. The Sentinel smiled. The Sentinel's box glowed and spun, its panels lifted slightly, and a hologram shone from one of the inner circles. A message. Vax stood up. Who is it? The Sentinel asked. The hologram was flickering. How does the Sentinel expect us to see Ray from here? Miser asked Foxtrot, standing impatiently by the ship. They had landed on a remote beach. She doesn't expect us to see him, that's her job. She expects us to protect the planet, Vistor reminded Miser. I hope Ray doesn't last long enough to get to Amalga 5. I don't like that where we're stationed is so close to home. Your place is miles off from here, Foxtrot argued, leaning against his ship and admiring his rifle. Nothing will happen to it. Tell that to Ilsos and Andromatron. Vistor shifted in his place. Ray can do more than you expect. So how do we kill him if he gets here? Miser asked. We don't kill him. Foxtrot pushed himself away from the ship. What? Vistor blubbered. That man's a monster. If we don't kill him, there's no telling what he can do. That man was my friend. Foxtrot turned around, silencing Vistor. Miser stepped back nervously. Somewhere in Ray is the man he used to be. I know he can change. He's past the point of no return, Foxtrot. Vistor mumbled. You don't know what you're talking about. I helped Conchna create that abomination, Vistor yelled. I know how his mind works. I saw it. He scooted his way closer to Foxtrot. We will not spare his life. Foxtrot, with all due respect, I think you're hoping the man he used to be is still in there. He isn't. He's beyond gone now. If it means the risk of other people's lives, we won't spare his life, Miser said. It won't be a priority, but we'll try if we can, he suggested. Good compromise? I'm not killing him, Foxtrot whispered. The ground beneath them rumbled, startling the 3. They all turned their attention to the sky above and watched as a massive yellow and orange space laser shot directly through New Earth's moon.
Poof.
A shrill voice called from behind the group of three. Foxtrot turned around, shock written on his face. Vistor tried his best to turn around as fast as possible, but Miser turned hesitantly, terrified. Vistor instantly transformed into his beast form. He roared at Ray with as much deepness as he could achieve. Call the Sentinel! Call the Sentinel! Miser begged of Foxtrot. Foxtrot stepped back and pressed on a band around his wrist. Come on, he spoke to himself. The Sentinel answered the call, and Vistor was hit with the effects of the remote. He stumbled and crashed into the ship, knocking Foxtrot over and disrupting the hologram slightly. Sentinel, Ray's here. He's with us on Amalga 5. What? The Sentinel's voice glitched over the hologram. Come to us, Amalga 5, Foxtrot begged. The hologram cut out, and he stood up. As he turned around, he was met with the end of Ray's remote.
How's it going, Foxy?
Ray's grim, animated face smiled at Foxtrot. Ganto, Terry, Vogar, and Agro sat down on the sands of Janistar, leaning against their ship. Ganto tapped his pointed hand against his hard chitin exoskeleton, creating some sort of beat. Vogar bobbed his head along. How do you think the others are doing? Agro asked Terry. Immensi serenilisos, Terry answered in Andromedan. Yeah, they're fine, Agro agreed. Yo, look at that shooting star. Ganto pointed toward the sky. That's... Agro squinted his eyes. A laser? They watched as New Earth's moon exploded. Agro stood up instantly, and Vogar, Terry, and Ganto watched, confused. They aren't fine, they're in trouble. Well, where are we supposed to go? Ganto asked. Agro's wristband blinked. He answered the call, and a poor hologram shone. The glitchy audio sounded, and they heard, Ray's with Amalga 5. Come to us, Amalga 5. Get on the ship. Agro stood up. But what about... Ganto argued. Ship, now. Agro entered as quickly as he left. But my sand drawing. Ganto followed him. Do we go to Amalga 5? Vax asked the Sentinel. What's Amalga 5? Nick asked. The Sentinel left the lab. When she stepped out, her first instinct was to look up to Earth. She saw the exploded moon and held her hands over her mouth. Did Foxtrot say that Ray was with them? Vax asked her. He can trigger the laser remotely. The Sentinel stepped back. What do we do? Nick asked. The Sentinel turned around, looking into Vax's eyes, then glanced at Nick. We fight. Ah! Miser held his head as he fell to his knees. Ray pressed harder on the button and forced the remote closer to Miser's face.
What a nice family you have.
Ray smiled as he turned his wrist slowly and watched Miser gasp for air.
You helped persuade the Ilsos government into buying Konshna's clone army, didn't you?
Ray knelt and stared into Miser's bloodshot eyes.
You helped make me.
Ray laughed.
And I'll be the end of you.
A blade extended from Ray's sleeve. He stopped, just as he felt something hit the back of his helmet. His smile faded. He stood up straight and turned around, only to be met with Foxtrot standing in front of him. His smile quickly returned.
Foxtrot?
He bowed. You wouldn't kill me, not after what we've been through. I wouldn't. Foxtrot dropped a piece of scrap metal from the ship. You don't have to be like this. Ray tilted his head and twirled his finger by the side of his helmet.
I've gone a bit cuckoo if you couldn't tell, Foxy. They didn't screw my head back on quite right, I guess.
We can fix you, Foxtrot bargained.
I don't want to be fixed.
Ray snarled.
Look what they did to me. Not this helmet, no, look what they did to you.
What are you talking about? Foxtrot stepped back as Ray made advancements toward him. Ray laughed uncontrollably, holding his stomach. Foxtrot stared back, confused. What are you doing?
Don't you see?
Ray held out his arms.
None of this matters.
He chuckled.
None of it.
He pressed a smaller button under the main one on his remote. A new addition. The sky above suddenly sparked ablaze with bright orange and red as New Earth was shot with a laser right down the middle. No! Miser stepped back.
Oh, but you knew that would happen, didn't you?
Ray leaned over Foxtrot.
Oh, your precious Sentinel knew, didn't she?
With a blast of blue light, Ray was sent flying back, flipping over and over before he landed on the water's edge, splashing into the beach. Foxtrot turned his attention up to the laser fire. Agro's ship hovered near them and came in for a landing. Ganto, Vogar, and Terry rushed from the ship and jumped to the ground. What are you guys doing here? You're supposed to be guarding Janistar. Foxtrot scolded Ganto. Oh, wait, man, we came to help, Ganto yelled. Ray stood up and shook his hands to dry them. He adjusted his helmet and wiped blood from his neck. He cracked his knuckles, and a faint whirring sound could be heard from them. A mechanical flash blasted between the bounty hunters and Foxtrot, and there the Sentinel, Nick, and Vax stood. Nick pointed his pistol at Ray and shot. Ray clenched his hand in a fist, and the bullet was stopped midair. What? Vax seemed surprised.
I've had a lot of practice with this plasma stuff.
Ray smiled. Your hand? Nick stared at Ray's hands, noticing he had them both. Ray removed one of his gloves and showed off his shiny new Calcris prosthetic.
Taking a page from the Sentinel.
He glanced at her.
Though now we can't be twinsies. Guess that's my fault.
Vax flared her fists and held them up to fight. Hand over the remote, Ray.
Oh, come on.
Ray dropped his shoulders.
Did you honestly think that would work?
He held up his remote. No. The Sentinel knew what he was about to do. Everybody get down! She screamed. It had been a while since the Sentinel had experienced time pass by this slowly. She could see every moment pass around her, an instant being stretched into a million. Her hands shone with darkness, and the gaseous plasma surrounded her. Everyone around her ducked down in slow motion, not knowing what it was they were dodging. The Sentinel's eyes flooded with darkness, soon becoming pitch black. She turned her head. The approaching space laser of Calcarus couldn't be approaching quicker, and yet it happened so slowly. The shield of dark plasma surrounded them faster than the blink of an eye. When the laser made contact with the gas, the Sentinel screamed. Time sped back to a normal pace, and the sound of death rung in everyone's ears. The gaseous plasma consumed the laser's blast as much as it consumed the Sentinel herself. Pain shot up her spine. It felt as if her skin were ablaze, as if her bones had been shattered and turned to dust. "Sentinel, no!" Vax screamed. "You'll die!" The Sentinel fell to her knees and held her arms up, forcing the laser away from the planet's surface. When the beam had subsided, the plasma vanished near instantly. The Sentinel fell to the ground, winded. She glanced at her hand, gray with silt. Her veins pulsated in her palm and fingers. Her eyes returned to what they once were, and she looked up at Ray, weakly. "Why?" she asked. "You would have taken yourself with it." The group stayed silent as the two halves of New Earth separated further. Ray tapped his foot impatiently.
You really are a nuisance when it comes to my plans.
He seemed annoyed.
I'll have you know.
He was interrupted by a massive headbutt from a beastly Terry. "Woo, go Terry!" Ganto cheered. "Get the remote." Nick called attention to the weapon lying on the floor. Vax lifted her arm and a pillar of crystal plasma shot up from underneath the remote. The remote spiraled through the air, and Vax caught it. Terry held Ray down on the ground. Vistor recovered, rubbing his head, back to his slug-like form. Vogar slithered over to Terry. He raised his head and started to charge a beam of plasma. Ray's animated eyes jittered. "Don't!" Foxtrot demanded. Vogar confusedly turned his head, as did Terry. "Foxtrot, what are you doing?" The Sentinel asked weakly as Vax helped her stand. "He's my friend!" Foxtrot yelled. "Your friend is gone!" Agro yelled back from his ship. "He's not who he was." "Yes, he is!" Foxtrot cried.
Go on. Let me free.
Ray smirked at Terry.
See what happens.
"Fox, he obviously can't be trusted." Vax tried to convince him. "At least not anymore. He just tried to destroy the whole planet and him with it." "Oh, so the Sentinel can change and we're allowed to trust her?" Foxtrot complained. "You know that's different." Vax yelled back. "Is it now?" Foxtrot laughed. "Guys!" The Sentinel yelled. "Well, that's just great." Ganto stared at the empty space underneath Terry.
I'll take that.
Ray sliced his blade against Vax's side. She let go of the remote and he got a hold of it. "Vax!" The Sentinel caught Vax as she fell. "I'll get her." Agro rushed to Vax's aid. "Sentinel, stop Ray." "Don't kill him," Foxtrot demanded. Ray danced around with his remote in hand.
Boop.
He pressed a button on the remote. The Sentinel tackled him. Another laser in the sky blasted, slightly off kilter, and grazed the very edge of Janistar. The laser scarred the planet, burning cities in seconds, sending chunks of the planet flying off into space. The destruction reigned, but the planet remained. "No!" The Sentinel yelled, looking to the sky. Ray punched her in the face with his Calcarus hand. A shot silenced the army. Everyone turned their attention to Nick. He cocked the pistol. Ray stood up, swayed, and stumbled back. A single bullet hole shone light through his helmet. The army stared in disbelief.
Good shot.
Ray commented. "You've got to be kidding me!" Ganto flailed his 6 tiny arms.
But my head isn't that big. Just the helmet.
Ray smiled. He knelt down to his knees and pointed his remote at Nick.
Boop.
He pressed a button. Nick fell to his knees and held his head. Ray swiveled on the ground.
Boop.
He pressed the button, this time facing Vistor.
Boop.
He kept pressing the button, constantly shifting his focus to other members of the Sentinel's army. The Sentinel and Vax were the last ones left standing. Ray pointed his remote.
This one's gonna be fun.
A flash flared behind Ray. His head twisted all the way around before he could press the button. His neck cracked. "Holy!" Vax flinched. "What the—" The Sentinel stumbled back. The Paradox Master stood behind Ray, thinking he'd just snapped his neck.
That hits the spot.
Ray smiled. He turned around, holding his head so that it could right itself again. He kicked the Paradox Master in the groin and pointed his remote at his head. He slapped the Paradox Master, then kneed him in the face.
Suffer!
He yelled. The Paradox Master stumbled. He looked up and spit. "You first." His box flew from behind him. It shot a small blast at Ray's knee. The Calcarus shielding broke in that spot, providing a weak point. The Paradox Master lifted his leg and kicked down on Ray's knee, snapping it, bending it in the other direction.
Oh!
Ray fell.
Yes!
He held his knee.
Now kill me!
He smiled.
Do it!
"No!" Foxtrot approached. "Oh, you've got to be." The Sentinel turned to face Foxtrot. She punched him square in the face. "He's dead! Your friend is dead!" The Sentinel scolded him. "Sentinel, calm down." Agro urged her.
Oh, this is nice. Drama.
Ray turned his head to see as much as he could from his position on the floor. He looked up at the Paradox Master.
Got any popcorn?
"Look, he obviously isn't who you thought he was anymore," the Sentinel told Foxtrot. "We have to get rid of him. Don't kill him." Vax groaned, trying to sit up. "He's asking for it. You'll give him what he wants." "What possible advantage could he gain from being killed?" Agro asked. "I'm gonna kill him." The The Paradox Master flared his fists. Actually, can I do it? Ganto asked. No, we have to assure death. The Sentinel scolded him. I want that bounty, though, Ganto complained. Eje wespen osco elosco sanglo, Vogar yelled. He's right, enough with the talking, just kill him, Agro yelled. It's lights out, Ray. The Paradox Master's fist glowed intensely.
Oh, is it?
Ray smiled.
Hadn't noticed.
As he spoke, the sky fell into darkness as a shadow passed over the beach. The army looked around, intensely confused. Okay, how the hell is he doing that? Ganto asked. The Sentinel glanced up. Is that?
Master craftsmanship, if I do say so myself.
Ray bragged. He snapped his knee back into place, shrieking as he did. Oh, Miser stared. That's Galactic Jail. The massive jail planet eclipsed the sun and came to a halt above Amalga 5. That's the Calcarus laser, the Sentinel pointed out.
Bingo.
Ray smiled. Who's got the remote? The Sentinel asked nervously. No. Miser noticed Ray waving the remote in his hands. He put his finger over his screen and hushed Miser. The Paradox Master took notice. He closed his eyes and held his amulet in his hands. Ray pressed the button. The laser shot from the planet above, and a wormhole opened above them. The Paradox Master held the revstone on his amulet in front of him. The laser shot through the wormhole the amulet had created, and a wormhole opened above the Galactic Jail. The laser fired from the wormhole above it and blasted the Galactic Jail planet, tearing it to shreds. Ray's smile faded. The Paradox Master turned his attention to him. Give up. I have no idea what you just did, but that was amazing, Ganto exclaimed. Ray tried to back away in the sand. Kill him, what are you waiting for? The Sentinel begged the Paradox Master. Vax groaned on the ground, trying to stand. Her bandages applied by Agro weren't holding. She ignored the pain and stood. She blasted Ray with intense plasmatic flames. The Paradox Master and the Sentinel both admired the intensity she achieved. The burning purple shone so bright that it flared bright blue around the edges. When the plasma dissipated, Ray was gone. The army shared a sigh of relief before Ganto saw it. Sand drawing. Enough about your stupid sand drawing, Ganto. Agro growled. No, look. Ganto pointed with a few of his hands. The Sentinel approached the spot where Ray had been and knelt down. A message was written next to a poor drawing of Ray's face.
See ya. Wouldn't want to be ya. XOXO.
Damn it! The Sentinel blasted the sand with a short burst of dark plasma. Sentinel, don't do that. The Paradox Master advised her. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! She blasted the sand 3 more times and fell to her knees. Vax came to her aid. Still hurting, she tried to comfort the Sentinel. Agro, get Vax to a hospital. What about Ray? Agro asked. Take the bounty hunters back to wherever they belong. Miser, Visitor, go home. The Sentinel glanced at the Paradox Master. Go back to the Extroverse. She stood up and pointed an angry finger at Foxtrot. You and I are having a talk. She turned her attention to Nick. And I'm taking you home. No. Nick stood firm. I want to be part of saving the universe. I don't want you turning out like your mother and sister. The Sentinel stood her ground, as did the bounty hunters Miser, Vistor, Agro, and the Paradox Master. Leave! The Sentinel screamed. Sentinel. Vax held out her hand. No! She yelled. I can do this on my own. There was a short silence among them. I don't need an army, she whispered, and in a flash, she was gone. All that could be heard immediately after the Sentinel left was the echo of her flashing away. The grumbling and crashing of the distant dying Earth and Galactic Jail was subtle. Waves crashed against the beach, and rainfall fell upon the land where the army stood, and the fires of Foxtrot's wrecked ship shrieked as they were put out. So, what do we do now? Miser asked, to which no one replied. Give up? He asked. The Sentinel can't do this on her own. Vax spoke up. As much as she'd like to think she can, we have to help her. Vax looked at Foxtrot. Don't let feelings dictate you. That's what Ray wants. That's how he wins. So what, are we just supposed to be emotionless? Foxtrot asked. Works for me, Ganto boasted, puffing out his chest. Only wasn't able to kill the guy the first time the bounty was set because of these 2 idiots. He gestured toward Vogar and Terry. Mazi, Terry began. Shut up, Terry, Ganto interrupted. Point is, that remote doesn't do anything to me. So what's the plan then? Agro asked. Send Ganto off to kill Ray on his own while we act as backup, Vistor suggested. But how do we save the universe? Miser asked. That's what the emissaries are for. The Paradox Master reminded him. We aren't giving up. The Paradox Master turned his attention to Vax. Don't let the Sentinel use her powers too much, Vax. She's dying. I know. She looked away, wincing at the pain at her side.